Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. It's Nima from Smarta. I'm just hosting it on the technical back end. We've got Lee Ashton from the sales consultancy here and author of ISL. And we've also got
Hi.
Thomas, COO of Smarta, hosting and interviewing Lee today. Do you give us a little
Hi, everyone.
hi? Okay, so what we're going to do today is go over techniques on how to boost your sales and improve your business. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hand over to Matt Thomas, who's gonna lead the conversation. But over the next half an hour, if you guys can put your questions to me that you'd like Lee and Matt to answer, what I'll be doing is I'll be taking them down and I'll come back onto the webinar and pose the question to the guys. What will really help is if you let me know what your business does and how long you've been operating so that Lee and Matt can tailor their questions to give you the best outcome possible. But I'll hand over to Matt now. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Nima. Um, Really great to have everybody on board, and I can already see that the user numbers are really super. So thank you everybody for joining. Um, Really excited to have Leigh here with us today because I know Leigh really well, and I know what a sales genius she is, and how adept she. Wow, it's true. It's true. I wouldn't say if it weren't true. Um, and also just what always impresses me with Leigh is how well she works with people that are really just starting out and starting a business, right through to large organisations that are really helping other people to sell as well. So Leigh's knowledge in sales really expands from the micro businesses through to larger organisations as well. She's got some amazing experience of helping people unlock their kind of sales potential. And we're talking about sales on a different level, but whether that's B2B partner deals or actually just the strategy of selling direct to your customer. So I'm going to stop waffling and we're going to hand over to Leigh quickly. But Leigh, tell us a little bit about your background before we get started into any questions.
Okay, well, I fell into sales over 30 years ago by accident and absolutely loved it. And because I loved it, I was very good at it. And as I progressed in my career and became a sales manager, I realized that not everybody loved it and that there are a lot of fears and a lot of concerns. Even when people are outwardly confident, sometimes below the surface they're not very sure. And I set up the sales consultancy in 1995, to help people who felt that sales was a bit of a scary arena. So I worked with a lot of small businesses at that time, and that kind of progressed into working with bigger sales teams who actually didn't think sales was scary because they were in that career, but there were some hidden psychological barriers that stopped them being as great as they could possibly be. So I guess my mission is always to take the fearful and scary out of selling and make it a much more comfortable um, experience for everybody. So, especially with small business, you're all really great at what you do. I get that, and I see that in every small business that I've ever worked with. The passion for what you do is incredible. Though you may be one of those business owners, and most of you fit in this category, in my experience, that actually don't like the selling bit or find the selling bit uncomfortable. So there are lots of things that you can do, and I'm going to share some of those with you. But just know that I have been working with small business owners since '95, and that really inspired me to write the book that's mentioned in the webinar information I sell, because it's actually, I've written it specifically to a small business owner, an owner of a business that knows what they do, loves what they do, and they just need some help and support in that sales bit. So I was thinking of someone very specific when I wrote the book, and I wrote it to them. I was thinking about them the whole time, and they are just like you. So hopefully today you're going to get lots of little tips that you can take away and use almost immediately. So that's a bit of background to me.
Brilliant. Leigh, I was on your website earlier and I was looking at your at the free report that you give away on your site that anybody can go to www.sales-consultancy.com and I noticed that the free report was the 9 biggest sales mistakes that anyone can make. I doubt we've got time to go through the full 9 unless you disagree. But do you want to tell us the top 2 or 3 that and kick us off with looking at where people tend to go wrong when they're selling?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. One of the biggest things that people do that actually makes selling so much more difficult is that they think it's really important to tell the other person what they do and the benefits to the other person in a way that they say, like, we do this and we do that, and this is how great we are, and this is what we've been established for a really long time, and these are our customers. And I call that, when you do that lot of we do this, we do that, I call that weeing all over the place, and that is one of the biggest mistakes that anyone can make when wanting to entice someone, engage someone to want to buy their services or products. So the way that you overcome that is, rather than standing in your boots or your shoes or your space, I call it your map of the world, rather than standing in your map of the world, telling people how amazing you are or telling people about your services or products, it's much better to go into their map and learn about what's going on for them. So a way that you might do that is to ask lots of open questions that are what I call you-based open questions. So if you think about the person who is your ideal customer, you might ask them questions like, what kind of challenges are you facing in this area? What have you tried so far? What would you like to achieve, or what would you like this product or service to do for you? What would make this purchase absolutely one of the best purchases you ever made? When you find out about the other person, then that creates little hooks that you can then hang all of the things that you do and offer onto those hooks. And even then, you still don't talk about we. So say, for example, you have a software that is really brilliant and making life really easy to track your expenses. So you might ask the person, how do you currently track your expenses? What are the issues that you've had doing that? And they tell you all these stories. Oh, I lose receipts, or I keep forgetting to put my expenses through. I don't track my mileage always. And then you can say something along the lines of, well, that's really interesting, because the feedback that has come through to us is that 50% of the people that use our software are finding that they are able now to incorporate 100% of their expenses, because the software actually nudges you, oh, have you bought this and have you bought that? I mean, now that's one example, but think about your business. What does your service or product do that enables that person who is going to buy from you to improve their life or get rid of problems? And then you tell them stories about other people who have improved their lives or got rid of problems simply by being in a relationship with you. So a lot of you language.
That's brilliant. I'm trying to think about the majority of people on the watching the webinar now. And guys, make sure that you ask your questions and stop us all the way through, because this is for you, and so we need to be making sure that we're answering your questions. I'm assuming there are a lot of people that are really starting a business and looking for their very first clients. What should they do before the sales process even starts? How do you go looking for business and new business? I'm kind of guessing that we hear a lot about the cold calling age has come to an end, but for those people that are really trying to open doors before they even get to the stage where they don't weave all over the place and mess it up, how do they open the door to start with?
Okay, well, the very first thing you need to do is you need to decide who you are and what you're offering and who you're offering it to. So you're very clear about those areas, because once you've identified who your target audience is, you can tailor any conversation to those individuals. Now, it doesn't mean that you can have more than one target audience. That you can only have one target audience, because I have two. I work with small business and I work with some really large corporates. But what I say to each of those arenas is very, very different. So you need to decide what it is, what you're going to deliver as a result of a relationship with you. And then you need to find those people. Now, Matt's absolutely right. Cold calling is not a really very good way to find your new customers. When I started in sales, it was the only way, but it was a very different day back then. In 2006, you were able to get through to a real live person in 4 dial-ups. So if you did 4 dial-ups, you'd get through to a live person. That was the average ratio. In 2010, it takes 41 dial-ups to get through to a real live person. I haven't got a clue what the figure is now. I don't know if anyone's updated that research, but it doesn't mean you won't get anything. It just means that the amount of time that you need to spend cold calling is just not viable. So the way that we find any new prospect that is going to work for us is through networking. So we will attend networking events where we know that particular individual is going to be there. And I don't mean an individual kind of John Brown. It's for us, if we're going to a corporate event, it might be that we know a lot of sales directors of big companies are there. If we're going to a small business event, it will be businesses who need support and who are looking for a very different kind of support. So we pick our networking events very carefully, and then we'll just mingle and chat and use the same process. We don't talk about ourselves. We actually ask questions about what challenges people are facing and then identify whether we can help them or not. The most useful way of finding your prospects if you're in a business-to-business environment is through LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has the most amazing search facility, which means that you can look up the criteria of people who are working in business, and it's so useful. And a really great technique we use is to find someone who we think this is a great contact for us. Then we look at who knows them and knows us, and then we ask that person to personally introduce us. So that way it's going to be far more effective if someone they know says, hey, you need to speak to Leigh Ashton if you want to increase your sales, because they're going to listen to them because they know them and trust them. So if you're in a B2B environment, then I strongly suggest that you get very active on LinkedIn. You make sure that your profile says exactly what you want people to think about you, and that you have lots of testimonials and recommendations, and that you're actively chatting in groups and connecting with people who are in your industry. If you're in a B2C environment, then really I think that's about collaboration and finding people who are already selling to that audience, who are not in competition with you, and then having some kind of arrangement with them where they can introduce what you do as an add-on to their customers who know, like, and trust them, and recommend you as something that they believe in. And that would be a really great way. And obviously all the social media platforms like Facebook are brilliant, and Twitter are brilliant for B2C too.
And can you give us any examples without betraying any confidences, obviously, of when either that's worked for you or it's worked for a client that you've worked with? So it'd be good to know, exactly how a partnership and a sales deal began from its infancy through to what it is now?
Oh, I think that there are so many. In fact, I remember that one of the ways that I came across Smarta was I heard Shah speak at an event, and I was so inspired by what she said, and I knew that she was really active on Twitter. So I started following her on Twitter, and I started interacting with her on Twitter, and we were like connecting with each other. And it was really interesting that we did that for about 6 months, and we got to know each other on Twitter. And then I was at an event where she was at, and I walked up to her because she'd mentioned something on Twitter about wanting to be introduced to a particular person. And I took this person to Shah, and I said, Shah, this is Sharon. I really know that you want to meet her, so I thought I'd bring her up to say hi. And my friend Sharon was felt a little bit awkward because she knew I wanted to develop a relationship with Shah. And she said, oh, Shah, do you know Leigh? And Shah's response was, oh yeah, we tweet all the time. So that is a very topical, bearing in mind we are on a Smarter webinar, is how I actually got to know Shah and to know you, and the whole Smarter team is through tweeting. And in terms of a LinkedIn recommendation, we do it all the time. So we will have a look at the people that our customers are connected to and who really know, like, and trust us. And then we would say, can you introduce me to A, B, or C? They'll do a really nice email that we actually help them with. We have a template that they can model. And then what would happen is they email, a couple of days later we get in touch, and people go, oh yes, that person's recommended you, yes, let's grab a coffee, who then can maybe have a team of, anything from a couple of people through to 60 odd. In fact, I met a company at one of your recent events who has a team of 60 salespeople who I am now talking to and proposing a sales training program for them.
Wow, that's cool.
Is that enough examples?
Yeah, it is. It's brilliant. I'm going to give you a couple of examples now. We've talked about that kind of initially finding people and getting a foot in the door, and I want to make sure that we're addressing everybody's needs on the webinar. Guys, remember to ask questions. We've got Nima here who can ask you a question and make sure that we can be very specific to answering exactly the problems that you've got at the moment or the solutions that you're looking to solve. So make sure you do that. I will kick us off though with two scenarios that I'd like you to look at for us, Leigh. The first one is somebody who feels like they have been working with a client for a while, have got their foot in the door already, have maybe done some work at a kind of a low cost, and is perhaps at that kind of brick wall stage where they need to be either raising the costs of the clients that they're working with to make a proper business out of it. That's one area that comes to me an awful lot. Or actually they're just at a brick wall where they're not breaking through and finding enough clients, or they're getting too many no's.
Yeah.
And so, what are the typical instances where that happens, and what does that person need to do to take a step back and look at, perhaps what they need to do to increase margin, or why the no's keep coming?
Okay. So the first scenario is, and this happens really so often when somebody is new to business and they've got these low prices that entices quite a lot of people to use them. And really, in a way, it's the way we learn how to develop our businesses, because we're never going to sustain a business if we're going to be selling at very low prices. But these initial experiences give us so much knowledge about how we need to progress and what strategy we need to use. So they are worth doing to start with to get the volume of business through. But when you've got enough wisdom that you want to go to the next stage, it's very simple, and you have to swallow, take a deep breath, and say, this is our price as of such and such a date. Now, in my experience, most small businesses don't charge enough money. And depending on who your target audience is, they may well have a sense that you don't charge enough money, but they're not going to tell you that. So this is what will typically happen if you put your prices up. You will lose some of your customers and you will continue with some of your customers. That's the way it is. There's no way of keeping everybody, because some people are only using you because you are charging much lower prices. So you will lose some people, but they're not worth continuing with if you're not making any money. You just have to get over that. I'll give you an example of something that happened some years ago in our business. We ran this workshop that was called Don't Sell, Get Them to Buy, or something like that. And it was a one-day workshop that we ran from our office, and we charged £299 for that. And we were based in Docklands. So, you know, we would run this one-day workshop and people would go out to lunch and then come back. And we'd always been able to fill that very, very easily. And the numbers were starting to dwindle, and we had to think about what to do. And this was what we came up with. We changed the name. It was exactly the same program. We made it $399 and included lunch. And then the bookings went through the roof. So the only thing that's stopping you from putting your prices up is your fear of losing customers. Yes, you will lose some customers, but you may well attract a whole new different audience. So you just have to take a deep breath and do it. So that's my advice on the first scenario. The second scenario, where you're not getting enough yeses and you're getting lots of no's, you know, I say there's no such thing as failure, there's only feedback. If you're getting no after no after no, that is feedback that your strategy isn't working. Don't increase the number of times you do it thinking that you're not doing enough. You have to change something. So it could be a number of different things. If you're doing a lot of weeing all over the place, then that's one thing that could be getting you no's, because there's nothing more unlikable. I'm trying to think of an appropriate word. There's nothing that switches people off as much as someone trying to sell to them. Think about it yourself. When you walk into a shop and somebody walks up to you, like before you've even drawn breath through the door, immediately you will put barriers up. When somebody is trying to sell to you too early, you put barriers up. So as soon as you wee all over the place, you are putting barriers up in that other person. So think about your approach. Are you asking enough questions? Are you finding out about the other person? Another big mistake that people make, that is in the report also, is asking closed questions. Are your questions open questions? Are you asking who, what, when, where, and how? Any questions that start with those words are brilliant. What questions are particularly useful because they give you a lot of criteria that's important to the other person. But one of the things that I come across more than anything else, and this isn't just in a small business owner, this is also in big corporate sales teams, is they ask too many closed questions. So at the sales consultancy, they're banned. We don't ask closed questions. If there is a closed question that comes out of our mouth, we think, oops, let's find a way of asking that in an open forum, because a closed question can only come from your map. The other person is just saying yes or no. So if you're getting lots of no's, that's feedback to you that you are in fact not using an effective strategy, and it could be a number of different things. And I guess, you know, the report may help you to identify those. My book may help you to identify those. Talking to other people who are getting lots of yeses will also give you some clues. You know, find people who you know are really good at opening doors and ask them what they do, and then adopt some of those strategies for you.
That's great advice, Leigh. Leigh, one of the things that I'm aware that some of the people on the webinar might be thinking is that I don't do face-to-face sales. I'm not a B2B business. I'm a B2C business, and I get this all the time. So we get for people that are coming in for loans with us all the time, then they focus on building a beautiful website and a beautiful brand, and often great products as well. So we've had one recently, a lovely lady that sells coffee, and her biggest challenge is that she's built a great website, she's got a lovely product, but the sales aren't coming through at the moment. So what advice would you give to people that are just sitting there waiting for sales to come through the door, having essentially opened up their online shop?
Yeah, I think that's something that I typically come across a lot. You know, it's like that film, Build It and They Will Come. It doesn't matter how great you are at what you do. It doesn't matter how wonderful your website is, and it doesn't matter how great your products or services are. If you're not shouting about them, no one will know about them. You'll be the best kept secret. So there are a number of things that you can do. Is partner up with people, bloggers, that kind of thing, who've already got your audience, to build your audience fast. Do lots of blogging, use social media, you know, put photographs, use video. YouTube is incredibly powerful. Make sure that on your website you use a lot of you language, because research shows that if you're using more you language on your website, it's more engaging and people will observe more pages. So they'll stay on your website longer. So all of those psychological tips about engaging in terms of talking, it's the same in written communication. So make sure you do that. And one of the things that I would strongly advise people to do is to get some help with maximizing the impact of their website. There are really effective search engine optimization strategies. And if you haven't got any money at all, you can Google lots of information around that. You can look on YouTube, and I know that there's someone. I don't know if I'm allowed to say names, Matt.
Yeah, go on, go for it.
Yeah. Is someone that is familiar to both Matt and I, who I think is phenomenal when it comes to increasing sales online, and that's Mark Atwood. So if you want to Google Mark Atwood, and that's Atwood with the double T, he's just awesome and very, very generous with his information, and I know that you'll probably get some freebie stuff from him to get you going if you haven't got any money, and if you have, I would strongly recommend him.
Absolutely, and Mark does a lot of the work for Smarta, so he does an awful lot of sales generated marketing and marketing optimization for all of our websites. He's a great guy. He's been on a couple of webinars with us already, and I'm sure he will be again. Nima will be able to post a link to his site. Leigh, we're talking an awful lot about what people should or shouldn't do when they're selling, and the flip side of that, of course, is what makes people feel comfortable when they buy. So can you talk to us a bit about the psychology that we all have, I guess, that sometimes we often overlook, that what makes us comfortable to buy?
Okay, well, there's a couple of things there. The thing that most makes somebody comfortable to buy is the fact that the person who they're talking to feels really comfortable. So if you're feeling a little bit awkward, that energy will radiate from you, and that person will pick it up and make them less likely to buy from you. So the first step really is for you to feel completely comfortable. But I'll come back to that in a sec. In order for the buyer to feel comfortable, that if they are talking more than you, that will cause them to feel comfortable. If you're asking questions and then they're responding and you're really listening to what they say and your next question relates to what they just said, instead of having a list of questions in your head that you're just working your way down. So listen to the response, and your question reflects what they've just said. That will make them feel comfortable. The minute that, you see, the thing is, the sales has so changed from probably in the last 7 or 8 years, and buyers are just so much more informed. So the minute you try any kind of technique on them, do you think they don't know? Of course they know. The internet has just changed everything. Buyers absolutely probably know more. If they've done their research, they may know more than you do, because they'll have researched all of your competitors, they'll have researched you, they'll have researched every bit they can, so that, because they're so frightened of being sold to, they will do everything they can to safeguard themselves. So don't act like a salesperson. And the minute you don't act like a salesperson and you just have a conversation, that makes them feel more comfortable. The minute you tell them examples, or give them examples of people who, the experiences they've had when they've worked with you, that is the same as the experience that they want, they will feel more comfortable. At the end of the day, nobody comes to you with a desire for you to fail. They've come to you, or you're having a conversation with them, because they want you to succeed. They want actually to solve a problem or to get some solution. And they really want you to do that. And they want you to do it in a really nice way. So they're open and receptive. And what you need to do is prove that you are wanting to help them. So if you come from a space of giving, then that's going to be much more powerful in terms of the energy you give off, than if you think, I've got to get this sale. Because the minute you think something like that, you will be coming from a space that they feel is, oh, this person is just out for themselves. So always be in the mode of giving. Now, for you guys to feel comfortable in yourself, you've really got to find out what stops you from being comfortable. So if there's an activity that you know would really help you to be more successful, to generate more sales, and you're avoiding it, the question I always ask is, what stops you? And when you really reflect on that and really drill down on that, what you'll probably find is a negative thought that is stopping you from being the best that you can be. And that negative thought might be anything along the lines of, oh, sales is too hard, I can't do sales, I can't talk to people who I don't know, I can't do this, I can't do that, it's not my fault, it's the economy, no one's spending any money, nobody wants what I have. When you have these negative thoughts, it creates a tension. So there's a part of you that wants to go in a direction and interact, and there's a part of you that's going, this is too hard, I don't like it, I'm no good at this, any kind of negative thought. And so it creates this kind of tension that's like this, one going forward, one pulling back. And sadly, what's going on in your head has much more power to stop your behavior. So I have this little acronym that I use, and it's thoughts create your feelings, that create the actions that you take, which then gives you the result. So it's TFAR. And if you are behaving in a way that isn't working for you, there's no point in trying to generate a different behavior just by observing it in someone else and thinking, I'm going to do that. Because if the thought is, I don't like sales, or I'm not very good at sales, then the thought is the bit that needs changing. So you cannot change an action without changing the thought that precedes it. And there are some really simple ways of doing that. That are quite in depth and you know, maybe too long to go through in the webinar, but there are certainly lots of tips in the free report, and I do a whole chapter on getting rid of negative thought in the book, which is a whole process that takes about 15 minutes to go through once you've explored what the negative thoughts are. Once you know what the negative thoughts are, they're quite easy to get rid of. And I guess if I were going to give you a quick tip on how to do that, is I'd say for everything that you think you're not good at, come up with 3 counter examples. Because if, for example, you say, I don't think I'm very good at sales, the way the brain works is it will help you remember all of the times that you were not good, where you didn't do the best that you could be, and you didn't kind of pull it off. But when you have a belief that you're not good at sales, any examples where you did an absolutely brilliant job will be just deleted out of your mind, your conscious mind, and it just gets buried in the dark recesses of your mind. So the way that I often work, and this is part of the process that we use, is okay, so think about the best sale you ever made and relive that moment from start to finish. Think about the very first words you uttered to that person. Think about how that conversation went. Think about how you turned them around and they decided to buy your service or your product. And think about how great they felt having bought it. And not only that, how amazing you felt having got that sale, and relive that moment. And if you do that with 3 different experiences, what your mind will start to think is, hang on a minute, I've got this belief that says I'm not very good at sales, but actually here are 3 really great examples where I can sell, where I have had a great experience in selling. And it starts to get a little bit confused. You start to destabilize that thought. So if you've got those negative thoughts, that's the first thing that you can do, is to start to record all the great experiences and create almost like this pot of resources of great experiences that you can remind yourself of at times of doubt and at times when you're lacking in confidence.
Leigh, that's amazing. And I know, guys, you can go to Leigh's website to find out more. Nima will post a link to that, and you can get the free report that Leigh puts on the site for everybody. I'm aware that even though it's a firm belief of mine that if you run your own business, then you absolutely should be confident. You should be able to talk confidently about it and just be able to hold a really great conversation about what you do and how much you can help somebody else. And for me, you're halfway there once you can do that. I'm very aware also as well, though, that it's a big part of business that as you're growing and expanding and need to scale, that you'll need to bring other people in who can do that sales message for you as well. And there will, I know, no matter what we say, there will be some people still listening to this webinar thinking, well, I'm just not a salesperson and I'm going to get someone else to do that. So whichever one of those it is, how do people go about securing a really great salesperson who can go and spread their message and bring in new business for them?
Okay, the first thing is you do need to master that sales element for yourself, even if you do it only briefly. And the reason you need to do that is salespeople are really good at convincing you more than they are than convincing the customers or potential customers. So you need to be able to manage a salesperson, which means you must be able to do the sale yourself and not be taken in by any BS that they might give you about why they're not generating any sales. And, you know, I'm smiling because when I was training at a company one day, I had a team of sales managers in the room, and we'd just done this training, And the sales manager said, you know what? I think the best sales job that our guys do is on us. And he is so close to the truth, because if you want to bring someone else in, you have to know. You have to know where the boundaries are. You have to know what's possible, what's not possible. So first of all, even if you only do it briefly, you must get to know the whys and wherefores of sales. You must get to know why your customers buy from you. You must have some experience of doing the sales process yourself. So that's my first piece of advice. The second piece of advice is, if your budget allows, always employ somebody or use somebody that has sales experience. You may pay more initially, but the results will come quicker. And if they've got experience in your sector, the results, you know, they'll already have their contacts, and that means that they have got a ready-made pipeline, if you like, of people that they can reach out to. So, you know, at the sales consultancy, when we're employing people, they have to have not only sales experience, but they have to have psychological experience, because if they haven't got that, then they can't deliver what we want them to deliver. So think of the criteria that the person needs to have as an absolute must-have, and then you can look for those people. If you can be recommended to people, if you know people, and actually a note on that, if you know people who are really great in sales and they're friends, be very careful, because employing friends can be very challenging, especially in a sales situation, because how are you going to feel if they don't manage to reach targets, if they don't work out? How are you going to feel about saying this isn't working, goodbye? So think about that very carefully. Now, I do work with people that I know. In fact, our current salesperson is someone who I've known for several years, but I couldn't wait to get my hands on her the minute I knew that she'd left the organisation that she left. So already in my mind, she was absolutely somebody that I would employ. So, you know, that's the criteria. If you are going to recruit somebody on a lower budget who maybe has had no sales experience, but you think they're really chatty, you think they could do the job because they've got a lovely, bubbly personality, tread very carefully, because people who have bubbly personalities don't always make great salespeople. It's a very different mentality. They could, but it's very, very high risk strategy. The other thing is, if you do employ somebody who's had no sales experience or industry specific experience, you must invest in some kind of induction program, in a training program, so that you give them all the tools they need to deliver what you want. It's no good just taking them on and leaving them to it. That simply will not get you the result, and it could be very, very costly. In fact, more costly than recruiting somebody who has experience, who can hit the ground running.
Brilliant. We have got some questions, and Nima has got a big list of them. So we're gonna jump into those. Just quickly though, on that sales thing, one top tip on what to look for in a salesperson. If you had to pick one thing, one top tip, if you had to pick one thing that raises the biggest alarm bell during an interview.
There's one thing that I would always look for, and that is that they have empathy. Empathy, if a person has empathy, if they can relate to other people, they're more likely to be a good salesperson. And the danger is when, if you're interviewing and you ask them about experiences, so you might say, tell me about a great experience in your past that you're really proud of, and it could be a work one or personal one, and tell me about something that really didn't go how you'd like. It was a complete disaster. It could have been, you know, how did you react to that? Because you want to know how they're going to react in a challenging situation. Now, if somebody I'm interviewing starts blaming other people for their bad luck or their lack of success, that for me raises an alarm. And the reason it does is because, and this should raise an alarm in you too, if you blame other people or other things for your lack of results, that means that you're relinquishing responsibility for that result. You're going into what I call like a victim mentality. You're relinquishing your power. I call it the valley of reasons and excuses. So if somebody is coming up with reasons and excuses of why not, why they didn't achieve that, or why it went wrong, blaming other people, then that for me means that they'd probably be quite challenging to manage unless you understand the psychology of how to get someone out of that position.
Good stuff. Right, Nima, are you there? You got the questions?
Hi guys, yeah. So thanks for your questions, everyone. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read out a few of the ones that came in throughout, and what I'll try and do for the ones we don't get to is I'll send them over to Leigh if that's okay, and you can, if you send me your contact details, perhaps you can tweet her or connect with her on LinkedIn and continue the conversation. So to get started,
I'm very happy to do that.
okay, great. So to get started, we have Sophie Ann, who's been trading for 3 months. She's in the cosmetic industry selling high quality argan oil. She's having problems to get the product in the marketplace because of the competition that's out there. So she was asking for some advice on how to establish her brand and start selling.
Okay. I guess without seeing that, I'll pick on some things that she can do. First of all, she talks about there's a lot of competition out there. How is she trying to differentiate from the competition? So if she's the same as everybody else, then that means she's the same as everybody else. So, and that's okay, because you can be the same as everybody else, but you need then to have better partnerships, better distribution, better online activity to attract people to your website. So what I'd be interested in is, what have you done so far? Are you maximizing your website? Are you maximizing social media? Are you blogging the benefits of argan oil? Are you talking to people who could provide your argan oil as an additional product to their range? Are you talking to people who don't actually provide argan oil, who think that would be a really great add-on product for us? Are you thinking about doing co-branded argan oil for others? So what have you tried that's worked? What have you tried that's not worked? And how are you maximizing your visibility? And that's got to be online. I'm assuming that you're selling to the consumer rather than in bulk. If you are selling in bulk, is what buyers are going to be stocking that, who actually attract the audience that would buy argan oil. There's no point in supplying argan oil to someone who actually don't tailor to the market of people that would buy that. I hope that gives you some tips.
Okay, thank you, Leigh. That was great. So our next question is from Lenka, who's been running for 8 months a company called salesperson.com. It's a marketplace aimed at SMEs in fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. And at the moment, they're struggling to sell it to brands, as they need to educate the brands first. But by the time they get to the USP, the brands seem lost. So they're having thoughts of different things to do, and they're considering doing webinars at the moment because the sale itself is low price, so they can't afford to meet up with everyone face to face. But how would you go about, I guess, educating the customer first without losing them, or them just seeing it as free consultancy and then not becoming a paying customer at the end?
Okay, I think what they need to be doing, that the red flag for me was that by the time they get to the USP, they've lost them, which kind of tells me that they need to work a bit more on their pitch. And I know I said that don't do any weeing, but what you need to do is to have quite a strategic interaction when you are talking to people and trying to engage them. So there are some criteria that they absolutely must meet when they go into a meeting, and they can create a video to do this, so that if they can't meet the people personally, that they can send a link to the video, maybe do a conference call, Skype call, that kind of thing, and show them the video that way, gauge their reaction. So there's lots of different ways of interacting, but let's give you the makeup of a really great pitch that engages people, that will really trigger the interest of the other person. So the first thing is clarity. Because Nima, when you told me what they did, I don't know how clear they were with you, and maybe you were summarising, but I have no idea what it is that they're offering. So they have to be really clear. So my line of clarity is, hi, I'm Leigh Ashton, and I help people generate more sales. So what is it that you do? So the clarity piece is a one line or maybe 2 lines of what people get as a result of a relationship with you. So clarity piece first, then credibility. So my credibility piece is, you know, I've been in sales for 30 years and I've been working with small businesses since 1995. And then there's a bit about the psychology. So what's your credibility piece? Why should people listen to you guys in the first place? What's your background? Or maybe you haven't got a background in the particular product that you're selling, but it could be that, like Richard Branson, he created Virgin Airlines because he hated the way he was treated when he was flying. So you don't have to be, I mean, he had no experience of airlines, and now he's got an amazingly successful airline. So credibility isn't always like, you know, I've been in sales for 30 years. It could be, you know what, I bought this service and time after time after time, it didn't work, so I created my own. So you've got the clarity piece, the credibility piece. The third element is the problem that you're solving. So when they're talking to people, it's like, you know, people in your position have told us you've got this problem. People in your position tell us they've got that problem. And you list the problems that you've identified in that space that your offering gets rid of. You take those problems away. And the fourth element is the solution, how your product overcomes that problem. But pick your problems carefully. Make sure that the problems that you're talking about are problems that the people you're talking to actually have. And there is a really nice last piece that you can add. And for me, it's like how you leave people feeling and what you're known for. So for me, I'm known for increasing sales or helping people to increase sales. And I leave people feeling inspired to take action. So how do you want to be known if you're new? And how would you like to leave people feeling? So they're the elements, and you can get through that in less than 2 minutes. It's a really quick way of delivering that, and you may not even deliver it all in one go. You may do the clarity and credibility piece, ask a few questions, then do the problem piece, ask a few questions, then do the solution piece. So there's a number of ways of doing that, but that would be my makeup for engaging and getting enrollment from the person who's listening. But if they want to know, if I know a bit more, I might be able to help them still further. So it's probably worth them sending me a background of what the business is.
Okay, great. Thanks, Leigh. Just to make sure that we sort of do keep this lunchtime friendly, I've got a question from Stephen. I'm going to mix it with someone else's question, and then I'm going to put one more. So let's just try and maybe give some quick answers for these ones. So Stephen is been trading for 2 years as an FX risk management consultant. Yeah. And he's running his own business. Obviously, he's basically selling himself and what he can achieve for clients, very much like yourself. And he wants to get tips specifically from you on how to best tailor his approach. He currently uses LinkedIn daily to look for new prospects, as you mentioned. Now, I want to mix that with Luke's question, who sets up a clothing brand that's based mainly online. Currently, the sales online have declined, and he wants to move into retailers. So he's also looking at how to contact buyers from B2B when he doesn't have any contacts. So I think with both of them, obviously you've already spoken about LinkedIn, so it'll be good to hear about other methods of reaching out to prospects and contacts outside of LinkedIn and what you would recommend.
Okay. I always use LinkedIn as the first source. So if I'm doing research on who the kind of people are, in order for me to identify the names, so you for your clothing online business, the retail buyers, then you have to look on LinkedIn to find those. And for FX and selling yourself, yeah, you have to look on that. So the first position is to find them on LinkedIn, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you connect with them via LinkedIn. In fact, I probably wouldn't. If you can find people who know those people, so look at your network, look at their network, see who connects you both, and then speak to them and get a personal introduction by email, not on LinkedIn. The other thing you could do is what I did to get to know Shah is that person active on Twitter? Is that person active on other social media networks? Do they blog regularly? So it's about commenting. One of my clients at the moment is trying to get into one of the really big supermarkets, and what they've been doing is following their blog and commenting on their blog, and now he's talking to someone really senior in that supermarket, and he offers a service that is not, it's not a product, it's a service that could make some very radical positive changes to their financial results, and they do something that is really off track, and it's feng shui. So if somebody who is a feng shui consultant can get into a major supermarket just by commenting on a blog, then I think all of us can do that.
Great. Leigh, I'm just going to come with one more question for you as we're running out of time. I've got Daisy, and Daisy sells memberships to people, and she's identified that there's two types of people.
Yeah.
There's the ones who sign up on the day, and obviously the ones who need to go away, think about it, and come back with the decision. So what she's finding is that sometimes they go away, it takes 4 to 6 weeks, and by the time they come back, they've lost interest. It's harder to get them to buy into it. So what is your advice on, I guess, for everyone, how to close deals quicker? Because I guess as a small business, cash flow is such a big issue, and you can't generally wait around 4 to 6 weeks sometimes, as it's a matter of meeting payroll or whatever it may be. But how would you close the deal quicker?
Okay. Well, Daisy, it's a matter of control here. Some people do need to go away and think about it. That's true, because some people can't make a decision straight away. But those people that do go off, there is going to be a percentage of those that decide that they don't want to buy. That's just the way that it is. We can't convert everybody. No salesperson in the world has got a 100% conversion rate, because it's got to be right for them. But as long as you have asked, I think the biggest source of non-conversion is people not asking enough questions, because the more questions you ask, the more you can really tailor what you do to suit that person based on the information that you've got from their responses to the questions. But what's really crucial is follow-up. So Daisy, when you are talking with these individuals, the ones that do not buy, when your conversation is coming to an end, ask them when you should get back to them. Now, one of the mistakes that salespeople make is very often they say, oh, I'll give you a call next week, or I'll give you a call in a couple of weeks. And that's putting your timescale on the decision-making process. So I would say, when can I call you, or when shall I call you for an update? I never say for a decision, because I'd never want to pressurize that person or cause them to think that I'm going to be hounding them. So I'd say, when should I give you a call for an update, to see where you are, answer any questions, just to get your feedback. And then They might say a day, they might say 2 days, they might say 3 days. Whatever they say, go, great. Okay, I'll put a note in my diary or on my calendar to give you a ring on Thursday, or to give you a ring on Friday, or whatever day they said to call. When you do that, it means that you maintain control of the contact of that relationship. So you're not waiting for them to call. You're not thinking to yourself, oh, have I left it long enough? Have I not? You've already agreed a certain date. And then you follow it up on that date. And when you follow up, you remind them, okay, we spoke a few, like 2 days ago, 3 days ago. What's been your thoughts since our discussion? Not, are you going to buy? You know, and get their thoughts beforehand. But know this, Daisy, you won't convert them all. You just won't.
That's brilliant, Leigh. Thank you. A massive thank you for all the advice you've given us today. It's been absolute gold. I'm sure everybody has found it really useful. Neema's going to put your contact details up in a second so that everybody can get in touch with you and get the free report. Everybody, thank you for joining us. This webinar has been part of a series that we're running through our Smarta Startup Loans program. If you don't know about it, then we are able to give you through the government's startup loan scheme access to up to £25,000 worth of funding. I know it says 10,000 on the slide, but it's actually 25,000. We're just not allowed to advertise more than that. If you would like to know how to access that money, if you would like to come and talk to us or meet us, then please do so, and we can help you access that funding in under 3 weeks from the point of you first contacting us. To do that, we've got a special offer for everybody that has joined today. You can access a free mentoring session with Smarta founder Shah Wasmond. To claim that exclusive one-off session with Shah, along with your funding of up to £25,000, and all you simply need to do is apply with the link that we've just put live as an exclusive offer for the Smarta webinar, and we can start getting you working towards accessing your finance. And then everybody that does that within the next 24 hours will also get a personal session with Shah as well. So a great opportunity to get some more advice. And once again, thanks a lot for joining us today, and a big thank you to Leigh.